welcome to this tutorial with UAV Train Australia. In this video, we're looking at how to interpret details found in the EuRoute Supplement Australia, or ERSA. The ERSA is a publication which contains information vital for flight planning and for the pilot during flight. Useful information that is contained in the ERSA includes specific details for licensed aerodromes in Australia, prohibited, restricted and danger or PRD area information, emergency information, Australian aerodrome codes, meteorological forecast information, navigation/communication information, and pre-flight planning information. It's critical to ensure that you're using the most up-to-date version of the ERSA for flight planning to make sure that you don't breach any rules. Let's now take a look at the specific information that is found in the ERSA for licensed aerodromes in more detail. Now there's two ways that we can access the EuRoute Supplement Australia or ERSA. That is paper-based or hard copy, or we can access it digitally online. For the purposes of today's video, I'm going to be accessing the digital online version through Air Services Australia website. So once you have the Air Services Australia website open, you'll see that there's a number of options available to us along the top. And I'm just going to be moving my cursor to Industry. And let's scroll down to Pilot Tools. And then I'll open up another page. And I'm just going to scroll down the page till I find a section that's called Quick Links for Pilots. Now once we've found this, I'm going to be accessing the ERSA using the Aeronautical Information Package or AIP link. So click on that link. A new page is going to open up to the Aeronautical Information Package. Now you'll notice straight away that there's a copyright notice, conditions of use, a disclaimer, and statutory obligations. Now I'm just going to be clicking I agree because I've read all this, but I encourage you to just read through that detail before you select the I agree tab at the bottom. Once we've opened up the Aeronautical Information Package, there is a number of items that are available to us in this site. Now you'll see that we have the AIP book, which is the Aeronautical Information Publications book. We have AIP charts, we have Departure and Approach Procedures, the EuRoute Supplement Australia, and a few other documents that are available to us. Now one thing I want to draw your attention to is you'll probably notice that in this menu that everything is duplicated. Now there's a good reason for this, that most documents in the Aeronautical Information Package are updated regularly. And we can see that the next update for most items in this menu is scheduled to occur on the 2nd of December 2021. Now for the purposes of today's video, we are just looking at the EuRoute Supplement Australia. So I'm just going to be selecting the link that will take me to the ERSA document. A new page will open up, which will give us the EuRoute Supplement Australia. At the top, we can see there is an effective date. And then underneath that, we have a series of links that we can click on for various types of information. Now for this video, I'm not going to take you through all of the items found on this menu, but just briefly taking you through each of these items found on the menu, we can see this change report. This link will take us to a report that lists the most recent changes found in the ERSA. The AV Fax Made Simple. It's a step-by-step process for use of the AV Fax system. The intro, ERSA introduction. This chapter is simply a quick reference guide for you to go to give you a quick explanation of certain things that you may not understand in the aerodrome section of the ERSA. The next item down, PRD areas. So this simply stands for Prohibited, Restricted and Danger Areas. So this section contains all that information relevant to our PRD areas and the controlling authorities. The aerodrome and ALA codes. This is a list of all licensed aerodrome codes that are found in Australia. IFR waypoints. So this gives us our coordinates, our latitude and longitudinal waypoints for aircraft flying IFR. Our VFR waypoints is our coordinates or latitudinal and longitudinal waypoints for aircraft flying VFR. Then we have our GEN flight planning requirements. So this is a list of routes and requirements that aircraft must follow when using the Australian civil or military aerodromes. We then have our GEN special procedures. This is a list of special procedures that are not associated with an aerodrome for air users in Australia. We then have a Gen FIS pre-flight chapter. So this is all about pre-flight information and notification procedures for air users in Australia. We then have a Gen Appendix A pre-flight. So this is a list of single locations for TAF briefing areas in Australia. We then have a Gen Appendix B pre-flight. So this is a list of TAF briefing areas across Australia. We then have a Gen Appendix C pre-flight. This is a list of domestic and international aerodrome TAF bulletins available to pilots. We then have a Gen in-flight chapter, which lists the in-flight VHF coverage for Australia. We then have a MET forecast code and decode chapter, which lists the available AWIS sites and contact numbers across Australia. We then have a navigation and communication chapter. This chapter contains types of frequencies in Australia for navigation and communication procedures. And then finally, we have the emergency procedures. This chapter contains emergency calls, search and rescue details, and first aid procedures as well. Now, for the purposes of today's video, I'm going to be taking you through some of the information that is found under aerodromes, and we're going to be looking at two aerodromes in particular to help us in pre-flight planning for our flight. Now, before I go into the aerodromes, you'll notice that under aerodromes online that we have a list of all our aerodromes across Australia. Now, all these aerodromes are in alphabetical order, and you'll notice that in brackets here on the right hand side we have FAC, and on some locations we have this RDS. Now, FAC simply stands for aerodrome facilities that are available for a particular aerodrome when we go and view that particular aerodrome. RDS simply stands for runway distance supplement, so it contains specific information relevant to runways. Now, I'm not going to be explaining that today. I'm more going to be focusing on the aerodrome facility information that is found at each aerodrome. So the two aerodromes that we're going to look at today, the first one I want to be looking at is our Brisbane Archerfield aerodrome facility information. So this is for Archerfield Aerodrome. So when you click on that FAC link, it's going to open up the FAC information specific to Archerfield Aerodrome. Now, you'll notice at the top the location. So for this example, it's Brisbane Archerfield, and we have our AV fax code, which is 4002. And on the right hand side here, we have ELEV, which just stands for elevation of 65. So what that means is Archerfield Aerodrome, its elevation is 65 feet above mean sea level. Now, below that, we also have our coordinates for the location of Archerfield Aerodrome. So we have 27 degrees, 34 minutes and 13 seconds south, and 153 degrees, 00 minutes and 29 seconds east, which is our latitude and longitudinal coordinates. After that, we have our UTC time. So Archerfield is plus 10 hours or 10 hours ahead of UTC time. We then have this VAR, or variation, 11 degrees east. So what that means is when we're applying our magnetic variation for our flights in and out of Archerfield Aerodrome, we're going to apply an 11-degree variation from true direction to magnetic direction to ensure that our aircraft flies accurately. And underneath the elevation 65, you can see our international identifier code for Archerfield, which is YBAF. And below that, we can see CERT, which simply represents that Archerfield is a certified aerodrome. Now, underneath that, we also have some aerodrome operator information specific to Archerfield. So we have Archerfield Airport Corporation, we have a PO box and some email addresses and contact numbers as well. Below that, we have the image of our runways and taxiways specific to Archerfield Aerodrome. So you'll see that Archerfield has 4 runways that are available. We have 2 up here, and then we have the main runway down here and a secondary runway to the left as well. So you can see on the end of each runway we have these numbers, so 22R and 22 left, 04 left and 04 right. So this is the direction of the runway in degrees. So this runway will be 040 degrees. This one will be 100 degrees or 100 degrees. This runway will be a direction of 280 degrees and 280 degrees and 220 degrees and 220 degrees. Beside the runways, we have this 1245 and we have a 1100. These are the lengths of these particular runways. And down here, the main runway is 1471 and 1100. Now, apart from the runways, we can see these lightly shaded grey areas. So these are all our taxiways, and you can see that they're actually labelled. So this is taxiway Charlie. Taxiway Foxtrot 2, this is taxiway Golf 2, this is taxiway Golf 1, this is taxiway Golf, we have taxiway Foxtrot, taxiway Echo, etc. So some other information that is found on this pictorial image of Archerfield Aerodrome. You can see this little circle with our, almost looks like a target. This is our aerodrome reference point for Archerfield Aerodrome. Whenever we're making references or positioning from an aerodrome, it's always from the aerodrome reference point. So that's where its location is at Archerfield. Now this H here simply stands for a helipad. And we can see these items here look like flags. These are actually the windsocks. So these ones here are lit. We can see that by this little sort of half sun image. This one here is a windsock, but it's unlit, so we'll not be able to see it during night operations. Now obviously Archerfield is quite a busy little aerodrome, so they've also put a caution on here to identify that there is some incursion hotspots for particular locations around the movement area of Archerfield. Now below this pictorial we have some remarks, and the remarks just relate to specific information that is applicable to Archerfield Aerodrome. So it talks about there's some charges if you want to use the facilities at Archerfield. There's pavement concession required for a particular aircraft. There's neighbourly procedures that are applied to helicopters and fixed wing that are using Archerfield Aerodrome. Prior permission is required for non-VHF registered aircraft before they operate in and out of Archerfield Aerodrome. There's also conditions of airport access and use by Archerfield Aerodrome. So the next item down is handling services and facilities. This simply lists the services and facilities that are available to users at Archerfield Aerodrome. So we have fuel services, very important for aircraft operators that need to refuel their aircraft. There is also ground handling services that are available, and their details are located there. There's also aircraft maintenance and their details available there as well. The next item down is passenger facilities. So this is just a list of services that are available to anyone that may be operating in and out of Archerfield Aerodrome. So there is a terminal lounge and amenities that's available at the aerodrome. PT stands for public transport and HC stands for hire car. So there is public transport available as well as hire car facilities at Archerfield Aerodrome. The next section down looks at aprons and taxiways, and under here it simply gives us a breakdown of all these separate runways and the limitations that are associated with each runway. You can see there's quite a few there for Archerfield because they have the 4 designated runways available at the aerodrome. Underneath that we have aerodrome obstacles. So these are obstacles that are maybe in close proximity or within the aerodrome boundary itself. And we can see here there is a lit chimney and its height is 230 feet above mean sea level, and it has a bearing of 256 degrees magnetic, and it's 4,100 meters from the aerodrome reference point. And we can see there's some other things in there like trees, light towers, security fence, and a couple other items in there. These are designed to raise awareness for those users of the aerodrome. The next item down, meteorological information provided. In this section, it just lists what's available to the pilot when it comes to meteorological information. So we have a AF, and it's a category B aerodrome. We have a META and special service that's available on the NAIPS weather services. And we also have an aerodrome warning system available as well. Now, if we wanted to determine what the current conditions are, we can access that by 2 ways. We can use the AWIS by use of a phone, and there's the number that we would contact, or we can access the AWIS using the radio frequency on the aircraft, which was at 128.4. We then have some physical characteristics of the runways. So we have our 4 different runways that are listed here and the different types. Underneath that we have aerodrome and approach lighting that's available to us. So the runway that's lit and how we're to activate the lights during nighttime operations as well. We then have some information around other lighting that's available at the aerodrome as well. And then we have the ATS communications facilities, and this is probably the most important thing for us as RPAS pilots, is understanding what radio frequencies are relevant to a particular aerodrome. So for Archerfield, there's a number of frequencies there. We have the FIA, which is the Flight Information Area, which is Brisbane Centre, 125.7. We have the Automated Terminal Information Services, which is the Archerfield ATIS, and its frequency is 120.9. We have the SMC, which is Archerfield Ground, which is 119.9. And then we have the tower frequency as well, which is Archerfield Tower on 118.1 or 123.6. Now underneath that, we have a couple of procedures to take note of. Number 1, we have a procedure around tower hours. So Archerfield Tower operates between 2100 and 0700 UTC daily. So again, applying that 10-hour conversion, it's going to be operating from 7 AM in the morning through to 5 PM in the evening. Eastern Standard Time is the hours of operation, which means all aircraft will be monitoring this 118.1 or 123.6. Outside of those Archerfield Tower hours, aircraft will then monitor this 125.7 on the ground outside the tower hours. Number 2, Archerfield Tower provides ATS, air traffic services within Class D airspace, which is from the surface to 1,500 feet during tower hours. So that's at 7 AM to 5 PM Eastern Standard Time. Outside tower hours, airspace becomes Class G and CTAF procedures are applied, and we'll see those procedures shortly down further. Some other information that's found on the Archerfield Aerodrome Facilities Information Sheet is local traffic regulations, and these are procedures relevant to aircraft that are using the Archerfield Aerodrome. They have preferred runways, so runway 10 or 28 is a preferred runway to a crosswind maximum of 10 knots. Where a runway is out of service, the transfer from parallel to single runway operations will occur when the mean crosswind is greater than 12 knots. So that gives us a bit of an idea of preferred runways for the aerodrome. There's some details there about parking for fixed wing and helicopter aircraft. You then have some flight procedures, so procedures that are specific to aircraft that are operating in and out of the aerodrome. I'm just going to skip over that because it's not really relevant to us as RPAS pilots. But you can see there's quite a bit of detail there for local procedures for Archerfield. And then we have helicopter procedures down the bottom. We then have communications failure during tower hours. We have operations outside tower hours. So a circuit direction left hand is the standard circuit for aircraft that are operating in and out of the aerodrome outside tower hours. And the runways that are available is 04 right and 22 left, which is HJ or daylight hours only. We have runways 10 left and 28 right, which is available 24 hours a day, so day or night. We have runway 04 left and 22 right and 10 right and 22 left that is not available. So our CTAF frequency, so the Aerodrome Frequency Response Unit is 118.1 outside of tower hours. So if we need to activate the AFRU at Archerfield Aerodrome, we would be on that 118.1 frequency. There's also some noise abatement procedures there in regards to, limiting noise in and out of the aerodrome, and there's some additional information at the bottom. And then finally, there's some charts related to the aerodrome. So if we wanted to find this aerodrome, we can reference a World Aeronautical Chart, and the reference there is 3340. And finally, we can also look at the AIP departure and approach procedures for more detail on Archerfield Aerodrome. So that's Archerfield Aerodrome. But we can also find in the ERSA aerodromes uncertified. So I'm just going to show you an example. I'm going to go to Dalby Aerodrome, which is further west of Brisbane. And there's our aerodrome facilities link. So once you open up the Dalby Aerodrome facilities information, the first thing you'll notice is it's actually shaded a light grey, and the Archerfield FAC was pure white. So that is the first indication to determine whether the aerodrome is certified or uncertified. Now, if we go through this information from Dalby, you'll notice that we have the name of the aerodrome, which is Dalby. We have the elevation, is located a little bit higher in elevation than Archerfield at 1,137 feet AMSL. We've got no term service that is available for Dalby Aerodrome. So what that means is if I've got a flight near Dalby, there's going to be no information available to me when it comes to no terms. Underneath that, obviously it's located in Queensland, the state. We have our UTC time conversion again. So Dalby is plus 10 hours from UTC. We have our aerodrome identicator, which is a 4-code identicator for the aerodrome, which is YDAY. We then have our coordinates for the location of Dalby Aerodrome. So our latitudinal and longitudinal coordinates. So 27 degrees, 09 minutes, 19 seconds south, and 151 degrees, 16 minutes, and 02 seconds east. Our variation for Dalby Aerodrome is again 10 degrees east, so we have to apply a variation of 10 degrees from true heading to get our magnetic heading. And then we see this UNCR, which stands for uncertified aerodrome. Now underneath that, we have some aerodrome operator details again. So we have obviously Western Downs Regional Council maintains the aerodrome. It has a PO box, email information, also some phone numbers there to contact local providers. And we also have our image of our aerodrome here, and we can see our directions of the runway. So 31 is 310 degrees, 22 is 220 degrees, 13 is 130 degrees, and 04 is 040 degrees. So they are the directions of our runway. We then have a remark section again, so the aerodrome and AVDATA charges apply. So that's just specific remarks relevant to Dalby Aerodrome. We then have the handling services and facilities again, so we have jet fuel that's available to us. Passenger facilities, so we have TX stands for taxis, LG stands for lounge, WC stands for bathrooms, and ME stands for maintenance. So what that means is, if I'm going to use Dalby Aerodrome, I have taxis available to me, there's a lounge, there's bathrooms, and I have maintenance facilities that can assist if required as well. Again, we have aerodrome obstacles, so there's a radio mast in close proximity to the aerodrome. We have the physical characteristics of the runways. We have the aerodrome and approach lighting information as well, and the procedures that we need to follow underneath that. We have the aerodrome terminal services communication facilities. So the flight information area for Dalby sits in Brisbane Centre, which is 121.2 on the ground. And our CTAF frequency when we're operating aircraft is this 126.7. That is also the aerodrome frequency response unit as well. Additional information below that, obviously things we need to be aware of. Looks like there's gliding activities that take place during the day. We have hang gliding aero tows in operation when double white cross is displayed, surface to 3,600 feet. Ultralight aircraft operations and training also take place at the aerodrome. Bird and animal hazards exist around the aerodrome, and the aerodrome operator requires a CTAF broadcast for all aircraft. And finally, we have our charts related to the aerodrome, which is a WAC or World Aeronautical Chart 3340. We hope you enjoyed this tutorial with UAV Training Australia. If you have any questions on how to interpret the ERSA, please speak with your instructor.